Gentlemen.
Lentil Gem?
Gentleman. Mantle Gem. Gemelment.
What?
I don't know.
This is the part of the podcast where we make up words.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a very specific
philanthropy.
warm-up. There's a warm-up period, James, is what it is. We come out, we get the
Well,
audience psyched.
seeing as you put it on the beginning of every podcast, so yeah.
It's the podcast foreplay. You can't just go right in.
Yeah,
So
just a tip.
You'll get podcast chafing.
There's a little bit of teasing. We got to make sure everybody's properly lubed up, before we get down to the nitty-gritty, the down and dirty.
Don't forget to put your rubbers on.
The whole hog.
That got sexual fast.
Zing. Well, it's just foreplay until you just stick it in.
Okay, so I assume you know what's going on.
No idea.
Well, exactly. You've got it already.
There you go.
You picked it up.
Leon's not here, so I am the sacrificial lamb for the podcast.
We're going to have to make up some crazy theories about where he is. The one time I showed up late, they said I was doing drugs or something and I was crying.
Leon thought that you were dead in an alley. Leon was like,
Yeah.
I think he's been murdered. I thought you were crying. I was like, I hope he's upset somewhere and he's just weeping uncontrollably.
Let's get WordPad up in this bitch and come up with some theories. Where does he live exactly? Chicago?
He lives in I think he lives in Delaware now, but he
was in New Jersey last week.
Well, he was, but New Jersey is where his in-laws live.
He's migratory in nature.
He is, he was in Texas. He was living in Texas a couple of months ago, and then they moved to Delaware. And recently he's been accepted to Baltimore as, to be, accredited as a teacher there. So I don't know if that means he's moving to Maryland, or if he's just, commuting to Baltimore.
So that means he's on the Oregon Trail.
Very possibly.
That's all I can think of is the fact that he's so nomadic that he just has to go on the Oregon Trail.
Which means that he's probably going to catch dysentery and die.
Mm-hmm.
I usually try to ford all the rivers and I drown to death.
You just gotta go straight through. There's no going around. You'll die before you get there.
Did either of you guys play? There was an old Sierra adventure game called Gold Rush. Did you ever play Gold Rush? Either of you?
No.
It was it reminded me. It was kind of like one of the classic old parser-based adventure games, a la original King's Quest or Space Quest and whatnot. About this guy who, in New York City, decides that he's gonna go. See his cousin in San Francisco and, pan for gold, because it's, right in the middle of the gold rush and whatnot. It reminded me of Oregon Trail, except, imagine how unforgiving Oregon Trail is, combined with how unforgiving Sierra adventure games were. And it was just you got on the boat. Congratulations, you have scurvy, now die.
Congratulations, you get off the boat, now fend off the pirates.
It was you had to choose how you were going to get to California. You could sail through the Panama Canal or around Cape Hope. And if you went to Panama, then you had to get off and get on a wagon train, and there was fucking quicksand and snakes everywhere. And then on the boat there was so much disease. It was
all of a sudden slavers. That's it.
It was really brutal. It was really nasty. It was a horrible game.
The only Sierra games that I remember are Quest for Glory.
Awesome. The Quest for Glory
Yeah.
games. Ooh, good. Especially Quest for Glory 4.
I think I played King's Quest 5.
That voice acting casting Quest for Glory 4 was awesome.
Yeah.
Jennifer Hale's first performance in a video game. Quest for Glory 4, Shadows of Darkness, Jennifer Hale. So
that's how out of touch I am with point and click adventures like that. I barely play those.
Speaking of which, I finished The Walking Dead. We'll talk about that.
Yes, we will.
I got it yesterday from my friend for Christmas, and I was like, I really from what
Happy birth of Jesus. Here is misery.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to a very special episode of the Yule Log Podcast, bringing to you all the excitement of the Yule Log television show only in podcast form, where myself, your host, Johnny Maloney, Austin Yorsky, and our special guest, James Costanzo, sit around and talk about vaguely winter-related things, all to the sounds of a fireplace crackling.
I could watch that channel for days, man. Just watching that sucker burn.
Yep.
Did you actually turn that on in the background?
Cold winter, isn't it, gents?
Yeah. Nothing like the warm hearth, man.
Yep. Crackling fire. Just... Anybody feel like some s'mores?
Wait, do you actually own like a tape of a Yule log burning? Or is it actually... Did you set something on fire in your house?
No.
Johnny, do we have to call the fire department?
No, nobody has to call the fire department. Can't you guys just get cozy? Put on your...
I'm a little concerned about your chestnuts roasting on an open fire.
Your fleece pants, smoking jackets, take out the pipe.
Well, I'm not too much concerned about Johnny anymore, seeing as he's so chilled out. You know who I'm concerned for is the person that I'm subbing in for.
Leon, I heard he was eaten by wolves. Christmas wolves.
That's true. We should properly introduce James. I think that's something that probably should be done. James Costanzo is a contributing writer, editor for Blistered Thumbs. James, say hello to the nice people.
Hello to the nice people.
Now, the reason why James has joined us today, not only because he's an extremely charming and intelligent individual, but we have another mysterious disappearance from the Blistered Thumbs podcast. Longtime listeners may remember an episode some time ago where Austin Yorsky had vanished inexplicably from the face of the earth for, I think it was about 20 minutes of podcast that we got before you managed to claw your way back into existence, Austin. Well, today, in this very special Yule Log podcast, Leon Thomas appears to be entirely absent.
Completely MIA.
So, we've invited James to join us, talk about video games, other things than video games, and yeah, so...
At least he actually plays video games, unlike certain bald people I won't mention.
Oh, zang.
How do you feel about Nintendo, James?
I don't own a Wii U yet. I don't know why.
Well, I'm just asking, how do you feel about Nintendo?
How do I feel about Nintendo? Nintendo's doing a good job. Longest running console maker in the history of video games. I'd say it. Okay. Well, aside from PC, which will last forever.
I kind of feel almost like Leon is here now. So, in spirit, at least. In spirit. Ha!
Super Mario Sticker Star, Game of the Year.
Yeah. You think so?
Oh, that's what I put on mine.
You did name Sticker Star as Game of the Year. Over on Blistered Thumbs.
Shameless plug.
Well, I mean, this is the Blistered Thumbs podcast. It's not really a shameless plug.
It's driving me nuts, Johnny. Are you going to leave that thing on the entire time we do this?
I don't. Fine, I'll turn it off.
Like
we reached the end of it anyways. I only had like 3.5 minutes of it, so
I jumped the gun there. I went to a lot of trouble to make sure there's no background noise. It's Christmas Eve, shit's going on. I was like, okay guys, I need an hour. I'm going to record this stupid ass thing I do for work, and then we can get back to being noisy. And I show up, and here you go. You're setting things on fire.
What makes you think I don't set things on fire normally during the podcast?
Well, because normally you do the podcast naked. Wouldn't you be afraid of burning yourself in the sensitive areas?
No. Do that plenty of times cooking bacon in the nude.
Well, I mean, that just comes with the territory.
It does, man.
The only thing that I got from this conversation is never play chicken with Johnny.
You should usually not play anything with Johnny. He's a very poor sport.
How would you know? The only time that we ever played anything together, Austin, was when we decided to take up arms and war against a farm together.
Yeah, and you guys gave me quite a bit of guff about dropping that pallet as I tried to take that corner with the forklift.
Hey, I did not. Leon was all over you, but I was like, "Don't worry, we can do this, guys." I was being a team player. I got us that huge amount of debt that we got into, and the front loader with the forks so that we could pick up pallets of things like water and deliver them to garden parties for exorbitant amounts of money that nobody would rightly pay for a pallet of water. But
no kidding. Or somebody's lost luggage.
Yeah.
I mean, who pays for like $1,000 for you to give them their luggage?
No idea.
Farm folk are richer than we think.
That is a thing that apparently Farm Simulator 2013 is all about. But that was a game we played, and I think that probably will segue into the first segment of our podcast today. Suns, fire, crackling noises, unfortunately. What everybody's playing. Who wants to start?
Dibs out.
That means James goes first, because he's the new guy.
Yep. All right, James.
All right, well...
video games that you've been playing.
Okay, for the last week, I've been actually playing a lot of World of Warcraft that I got back into in December.
That's right, you like the MMOs, don't you?
Yeah, well...
You came to the wrong neighborhood.
He says as he cradles his fists.
Yeah. We've had a reputation here for not being too kind, especially to Blizzard. Poor guys.
Oh, they mean good, well, except when they made Diablo 3. But whatever. Mists of Pandaria is actually kind of fun, I admit. Is it the best MMO I've played this year? Probably not. But it's still worth the $20 that I paid for it. Yeah.
What would you say is the best MMO you played this year?
That would probably go to Guild Wars 2.
I was talking to Oda about that, and he said that it seems like there was a lot of people leaving the game.
Well, that's what happens when MMOs get going. They get popular for a little while. A couple of months, maybe a season later, everyone just leaves, goes back to where they usually hang out, like WoW, or some of the free-to-plays that are out there now.
Ultima Online.
UO. Really can't think of anything off the top of my head.
The War Z.
I honestly have no idea how Greenlight actually greenlighted that game.
It wasn't greenlighted.
Oh, really?
It got onto Steam as an actual game.
Oh, as an actual game.
Game, yeah.
Oh, well, Steam, shame on you.
Well, let us be absolutely fair that, they let the game on, and then when there were accusations of fraud, and it was like false advertisement, Steam pulled the game from its store and publicly went and told customers that they should seek refunds through the support process.
Yeah.
So if not their diligence in terms of keeping the product on the Steam storefront to be of high quality, their ability and their willingness to take care of the customers was at least fulfilled.
It's true. But then again, I couldn't actually get into the War Z before they pulled it. So, but I've seen the screenshots, I've seen the videos. There is one guy on YouTube that's been doing a whole string of videos damning this game. They're damning the War Z being a flagrant ripoff of a whole bunch of others. And, yeah, I guess it panned out, and he's probably... everyone slammed him for it. All the viewers, I think there was about 7,500 dislikes to like 1,000 likes. Everyone was just slamming his videos, and it was kind of sad to see just a up-and-coming YouTuber just get slammed like that for something that was... obviously a copy.
Wait. YouTube is a nasty place to be?
Johnny, we have to have this talk. YouTube is a terrible place to be. The internet is a terrible place to be.
So cynical, James. So cynical.
Well, I gotta take it as it comes. And today, just to finish off, I actually installed Far Cry 3. And I love it.
I've been playing some Far Cry 3.
So how are you playing it?
I'll talk about that in a minute. Let's hear your thoughts on it.
I actually haven't gotten too far in the main story. I've just been going around the starting area, for rummaging for supplies and skins so I can expand my stuff. It's actually pretty fun. I love it. I also like the fact that compound bow is probably my favorite weapon in the game. Just pick people off from like 100 meters back. No problem. Mm-hmm. So who's next?
Well, I want to hear what Johnny has to say about Far Cry 3.
Yeah, I do too, actually.
Far Cry 3 basically fulfills every fantasy that the portion of my personality that I would describe as the angry, drunken murderer would ever have.
Wait, can you get drunk in the game? I know you can take drugs. Can you just trip out on shrooms and just go stab tigers?
Well, like there's the drug aspect of the game is actually a lot more limited than perhaps some reviews would like reviews or publicity would lead you to believe. What basically happens is that over the course of the game, as you complete certain things, like either side quests or missions or taking strongholds or what have you, recipes kind of get handed
discovered
out to you. Yeah. And then you use these recipes to, like, concoct, medical syringes or syringes that help your combat effectiveness or efficacy. Yeah, things like that, right? So there's a pretty detailed crafting system in it. So loot sacks, how much ammo you can carry, how much money you can carry, things like that, right? And for like your leather gear and things like that, you have to hunt like certain animals and then skin them and then use the skins to create these items, and there are basically 3 types of plants in the game. Although, like each type of plant has a variety of different sort of species to it.
4, I think.
Is it 4?
It's
it's 4. That's
red,
it's
yellow,
red, amber, white, and blue.
And blue, yeah.
4. Sorry, I barely ever use the blue ones.
Well, yeah. I haven't used the white ones at all yet. I'm just using green and yellow and red.
Yeah.
You guys are racists.
No, I'm not using the white ones, Austin. Don't you know it's not racism if it's against the whites?
Oh, God.
Is it the same rules for flower racism as it is human racism? I didn't know that.
I can only assume.
Which flowers can I make into hallucinogenics? That's all I need to know.
But that's the thing, is that the flowers that you use, basically, in the game, they really don't have that high a hallucinogenic effect. For example, one of the first formulas that you wind up getting is called Hunter's Instinct, and basically what it does is it says that it allows you to track animals by scent. But when you, inject yourself with this Hunter's Instinct, what that basically means is that any animals that are nearby get highlighted even if they're behind terrain.
Yeah.
So you'll see this, flashing kind of gray, whitish leopard or a tapir, if you will, or like crocodiles and shit like that. So most of the actual tripping balls hallucinogenic stuff happens in relation to the plot. So, during the course of you playing the game, yeah, you will trip right the fuck out. But, when I say that this game satisfies the angry drunk murderer in, portion of my personality, I really mean that. It really is, you can be as sly as you want. There are times in this game where I'm like, okay, I've got to take this outpost, and I'm on this mountain crop, I don't know how far away, and I've got a digital camera out which serves as your viewfinder because you can zoom in and tag guys, and I'm staring at these guys through this digital camera, and I'm okay, there's a shock trooper by the gate, and there's a sniper on top of one of those buildings right there, and then we have 2 grunts over here who look like they're patrolling the perimeter, and holy fuck, that's a tiger, and he's eating them! And literally, I have taken an entire base by just not doing anything.
But you just let the tiger out.
Not even letting the tiger out. I'm just hanging there, looking at the terrain and trying to figure out approach and the best way to take them down stealthy. And then 2 Komodo dragons come fucking flying out of nowhere and eat everybody.
Wait, flying Komodo dragons?
No, I mean
they might as well be.
Yeah, pretty much. These fuckers run like cheetahs. It's and you're just, oh wow.
Because one time I decided to do this little rule of mine saying I don't get into cars. I will just enjoy the view. 5 seconds later, I'm eaten by a Komodo dragon.
I think I could take a Komodo dragon in a fight.
Well, you could probably take one out in a fight, but then you got to deal with his 4 friends.
Yeah, they run in packs.
Wait, what?
It's pretty fucking rough.
What's a group of Komodo dragons called? Is it a herd?
I'm gonna go ahead. A clutch of Komodo dragons.
Yeah.
That's not correct.
But
if we were actually going to, because I know it's a murder of crows and a gaggle of geese, I'm gonna go ahead and say a clusterfuck of Komodo dragons.
Brutal of Komodo dragons.
Yeah.
I know apparently it's like a blessing of unicorns as a group. Like, who's making up names for fictional groups?
How can you have a group of animals that don't exist?
I blame the ponies.
Wait, they do have pantheons of gods. Oh!
Social commentary.
Social commentary on the most appropriate day of the year to do it, because it's Christmas Eve.
Well, I mean, some of that stuff with the lions and tigers just killing people you were planning on killing, that's some of that emergent gameplay we've been talking about. It's like you get more out of a random encounter like that than you ever get out of something scripted.
And that is the thing, is that it has these moments. The AI I'm actually pretty impressed with. Occasionally they wind up doing like ridiculously stupid things and then just kind of stop as if they're like, what?
Oh, you want to know the best thing about the AI for the humanoids? Can't swim. You lead them to water and they'll drown right there.
Really? I didn't know they drowned.
I just saw this truck just drive right into the ocean, and then they just bobbed right out of the water.
But I mean, the thing is that the game is amazing. Like it's fantastic. It's got all these side quests, all this area. It fixes a lot of the problems that I had with Far Cry 2, but keeps everything good about it.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my god, the fire.
I haven't experienced the fire yet.
I got my hands on the flamethrower a couple of nights ago, and it was, since then, taking enemy strongholds, like my most heavily worded phrase is, now you've done it. and that's when I get detected and shot at, and the flamethrower comes out. Because when the flamethrower comes out, everything burns. Buildings burn, grass burns, trees burn, fire spreads like crazy, and it's just like, it's oh,
beautiful.
wow.
That was supposed to be one of the selling points of Far Cry 2, but it never really panned out. I mean, everyone has pretty much the same experience with Far Cry 2, where it was pretty fun, but you had to drive too much, and it just didn't deliver. But it was still fun. Everyone has kind of work.
Part of my biggest problem with Far Cry 2 was the interruption, because it would get to a point in time where you're like, okay, you need to go here, and you're like, jump in the car, and you drive, and then on the way there, all of these, like, little outposts filled by, like, army soldiers repopulate all the time.
And so that doesn't happen in 3?
It does not happen in 3.
Ah.
You take an outpost, and you take it permanently.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though, because as critically lauded as the game is, we gave it a 9. It is a conspicuous absence on our Game of the Year list. I talked to Yusuf, who reviewed the game, and he feels that the competitive and the cooperative multiplayer kind of drag down the overall quality of the game, not as if they're bad, but compared to the sterling single player, that they're kind of a blemish, as if the game would have been better without them.
I haven't had a chance to get into any of the multiplayer. I rarely play competitive multiplayer these days.
Well, that's kind of disheartening because me and my buddies are going to play co-op after Christmas when they get back.
I mean, yeah, from what I understand, it's not outright bad. It's just linear shooting corridors as opposed to wide kind of open exploration of the single player.
The RPG elements of it, I gotta say this too, because they have actually added like an RPG system to it. You gain experience by being better at what you're doing. If you take an enemy outpost without being detected, you get like 1,500 experience points. If you take an outpost without any alarms triggering, you get like 550. If you take an outpost and kind of make a hatchet job of it, you take less than that. I wouldn't know because I am the man.
Wait, you were just telling us that everything burns before you.
Well, no, that just means he killed everybody before they could set off alarms.
The alarms don't work if they're on fire.
Well, you can turn alarms off and you can destroy them actually.
Yeah.
So, it's but yeah, and so you earn experience points which unlock skill points, and you use the skill points to basically flesh out your first-person shooting skills. So, like, for example, some of your early skills will be, like, learning to cook grenades.
Yeah.
So, like, when you get grenades in the game at the very beginning, it's like, click a button and you just throw it. But then you can use a skill to unlock cooking. And you can use other skills to do things like move faster when you're in crouch/stealth mode. You can chain melee kills. You can, there are skills where it's like, okay, while melee killing one dude, if you target another guy and press this button, then you throw his knife and, kill the other guy silently. And, faster iron sights, faster weapon switching, faster reload speeds. So, you are augmenting your character throughout the whole course of the game, just by randomly, or not randomly, but, by accomplishing your objectives better.
Yeah. My favorite one out of all of those is, if you sneak up on a guy, you can pull the pin on his grenade and you kick him into his friends.
Yeah.
That one's pretty brutal. It's pretty gruesome.
So the thing is that it's basically I'm going back to this being it's the perfect game for the angry drunk murderer in me, is that it's it's a first person shooter and it's all about dispensing with your enemies, but it is about dispensing with your enemies any way you see fit. Choose your weapon loadout, man. There's really no feeling quite like in Far Cry 3 rounding a corner with a flare gun in your hand and having an enemy spot you and go, what the hell? And then just lighting him up with a magnesium round, just being like, poof, right in his chest, and then just watching him go up like a Christmas tree. Topical. But it does. It just, you can kill guys, you can, shoot armies any way that you want to. And as if, the action itself wasn't satisfying enough, the cinematic moments that they have, and we can talk about the plot in a second, but the cinematic moments that they have are actually pretty good. There's good tension. Voss is a great antagonist.
Yes, he is.
The environments they give you are, despite the fact that you're on this island and it's kind of all tropical, they're pretty sufficiently varied in terms of the storm. There are villages that you can go to and high peaks that are difficult to climb, mansions, hovels, sewer cities, these magnificent caves and ruins, and it's the environment's fantastic. The plot is a bit
I think the word you're looking for is racist.
Possibly, yeah.
You know what I think they could have done better? Given you a little bit less douchey looking protagonist.
Yes. You're the protagonist that you play. His name escapes me right now.
Jason.
What is it? Jason, right?
Big, McLarge, huge.
At the very beginning, it seems as though Jason's skill set includes binge drinking frat style, applying product to his hair liberally,
and popping collars twice.
Popping collars, wearing wide shoes, and tribal-style necklaces that make him look more serious than he actually is.
The writer of the game has gone on record to say that you're supposed to not like all the frat douche bros, and that it's supposed to be an indictment of those kind of attitudes. But but
when you're stuck with the alpha douche as your protagonist, that's I don't think that's a good way to start off a game.
Now there is something to be said about the fact that even though you're dealing with this whole noble savage thing, and that you have this alpha douche frat dude protagonist, the de-evolution into savagery that he winds up experiencing, because at the very beginning of the game he's all like, what the fuck, oh my god, dude's being killed, oh, I want to go home to hedge fund.
Is that the name of his estate?
Yeah, something like
Probably.
But gradually as you become better at being a murder machine, he gets a little too excited about it.
As I would imagine such a person would in that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, Johnny.
Johnny.
there's a certain thing to be said for, like, even though it's this, like, awful cliched story about the white man coming to save the belabored native, at the same time, it's like watching civilization devolve into, shoot gun, stab face, blood, drink guts, eat stomach. But it's the thing is that it is kind of. I know that the writer of the game has tried his best to be like, no, it's supposed to be like that. I keep waiting for the trick to really reveal itself. Like, if that's the case, if that truly is the case, and they just didn't come up with that excuse after the fact, they really underplayed it.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for subtlety, but at the same time, if you have to be told that a work is doing something, then it probably didn't do it particularly well.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to the ending of the single player, though. What happens if he actually does go back into civilization, or he just stays on Rook Island? It would be like war heroes coming home and having nothing to do.
I would I would really appreciate it if they actually addressed that, but at this point in time, judging, and I unfortunately I can't tell how long I played the game for. It has a bit of a malfunction with my Steam overlay. So it's as far as like Steam is concerned at this point in time, I've played like 1 minute of
Oh, is that because of the Uplay launcher?
It's not actually, because a couple of weeks ago on the podcast I was talking about Assassin's Creed 3. Assassin's Creed 3 worked with the Steam overlay no problem whatsoever, and it used the Uplay launcher as well. But Far Cry 3 has and it did have some problems when compatibility problems right when it launched, but to assume that a Ubisoft game is not going to have problems on PC is a bit ridiculous at this point in time.
I'm actually trying to look for Far Cry 3 on my Steam list and see how long I've played it for. Hey, it doesn't actually show up. That's kind of weird.
Yep.
Oh, there it is, but it doesn't say I've played anything on it.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
That'll happen. That'll happen.
If it has to have a bug, I'd prefer that one over anything else.
Yeah.
Well, it had some pretty gross frame rate issues and crashing when the game first launched. Thankfully, I didn't get to it until after they had lost. Yeah, a lot of people were having problems with it crashing because of the Uplay overlay. And also, they were having some frame rate issues, but a lot of people are debating as to whether or not that was a problem with video card / driver manufacturers or Ubisoft themselves.
Yeah, well, I haven't had any problems with the graphical part of the game because actually I checked it before I started, and I'm actually playing it pretty mediocre levels, not ultra high or anything like that.
By downloading, basically by having the latest drivers, I was fine. I'm just saying that when it launched, they patched it since, and there were some drivers that got released. So, over and above that, Far Cry 3. I've also been playing. I played a little bit of a retro game. I played Master of Magic, which is an old Microprose game, which is good.
Just good.
Stunning analysis, Johnny.
It's a turn-based fantasy game where you make a mage who owns an empire, and you build cities and buildings and armies, and then cast spells and magic at dudes. It's kind of like an arcane version of Master of Magic, or even like the Civilization games,
Interesting.
Old school. So I was a big fan of it back in the day, and I'm sort of slowly working my way through my good old games catalog. Just being like, I need to play that game again. That game again.
I've had a really big hankering to reinstall Warcraft 3 on my computer.
That has been a long time since I played Warcraft 3. But the other thing I did this week, and I'm leaving this one till last because this makes a perfect segue, is I finished The Walking Dead episode 3.
Only 3? You're so slow.
I got distracted by Far Cry 3. I was killing so many dudes.
Understandable.
I was getting ridiculously drunk and murdering everybody. So that was.
I just got The Walking Dead from my friend for Christmas, and I haven't actually gotten around to playing it yet. But I'm going to go into the format of it's going to be like a TV show. I'm only going to play it an hour per week.
You are so not going to do that.
I probably won't, but we'll see how long it takes.
So what are your impressions so far, Johnny? I think last episode you mentioned that you didn't particularly care for the way it eased you into the zombie apocalypse.
That was just a problem. That was a problem with the first episode. I felt as though it banked really heavily on basically people understanding what was going on beforehand. I don't think that Lee's character, the protagonist, basically had enough what the fuck is going on time before he was kind of like just dealing with everything.
Yeah, everyone accepts the premise pretty readily. It's not like it's almost as if they live in our world where zombies are kind of like a known factor. They're just like, oh shit, look, here they are. I was waiting for them. They showed up.
The stupid thing about it is that they then they for the rest of the whole series they bank on this like dramatic tension of just being like, oh, the walkers, and people being like, what are they? Whenever they want a dramatic moment where people need to examine their own humanity, suddenly they're surprised that zombies exist.
But Johnny, aren't we the real monsters?
Maybe you are.
I'm actually planning on going through it again and being a complete and total unrepentant asshole.
Yeah. No, I think that's a worthwhile shot. But I quite liked episode 3. I mean, it would be absolutely ridiculous at this point in time to given the amount of recognition that Telltale Games is getting from not only critics but gamers. It's universal acclamation.
You know what I think is one of the big factors of The Walking Dead getting so popular, and I really don't want to admit it, but the game of the year from the VGAs.
Really? I was saying The Walking Dead was a front runner for Game of the Year months. You can go back on my Twitter.
Well, I know people have loved it ever since it came out with the episode 1, but now that after the VGAs, I actually saw a lot more people talking about it than usual.
Oh, you think it gave it kind of legitimacy?
Yeah, no, it gave it a rep boost, more marketing time. Oh man, you want a really great game? Try Walking Dead. Yeah, it's great. It might be a little short, but it's a ride. It's a definite ride.
I mean that stands to reason though. I mean you're gonna get a boost from something like that because as much as I would hate to admit that the VGAs actually have an influence on certain parts of gamer culture. They really, they do. I'm sure there are people that actually pay attention to them and feel that they're legitimate. But at the same time, we have to recognize that the VGAs are a democratic process, and they wouldn't have won Game of the Year unless a bunch of people had already voted for them.
That's true.
That's true.
Also, I think it's interesting that you mentioned that The Walking Dead is short, because it's half the price of a normal retail game, and I thought it was a bit longer than, say, the campaign of Black Ops 2 or any other mainstream.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, 2 hours an episode, 5 episodes, that's 10 hours, and I beat Black Ops 2 in 7.
Oh, I actually took
that was
a little
twice
longer
the price.
to do that. Oh, I must have done something wrong because I took at least 10 to 15 when I played Black Ops 2.
Maybe you're just no good at shooting people. You're too busy with all your Warcraft and the clicking.
I was just really, really mad at the Strike Force missions.
The Strike Force missions are the weight around that game's neck. It's such a actual reinvention of what Call of Duty could be that it's a shame that it's brought down by that.
Yeah. Anyways, the tangent. Get back, Walking Dead.
Walking Dead's awesome. I beat it. I played the whole thing in one day because that's how I roll. And I can't really add much praise that hasn't been said before. It's great. The characters are great. The writing is great. The art style. There's even humor. I mean, I really can't fault it for anything.
Really?
Yeah, there are a couple of really good moments. Maybe it's the dialogue choices I picked. It could be. You could play it and may perhaps get none of that, but that's the thing about it. However, obviously the one big flaw, I think Robert wrote an editorial for the site about it, is that at the end of the day, you can really feel like your choices didn't matter because it kind of railroads you into certain things. And, I mean, that's something that's going to bother some people and not bother other people. It's like the Mass Effect kind of syndrome.
Well, Yeah, I can see where that's going, but at the same time, this is a point-and-click adventure game. I'm really bad with point-and-click adventure games, but has there really been any of that genre that diversifies so much like a game like Mass Effect 3 does?
Well, I mean, I actually talked about a game last week, 999, which had quite a bit of branching paths and stuff, and I'm playing the sequel. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I feel like if you go into The Walking Dead expecting to see drastically different outcomes each time, you'll probably be disappointed because the story goes the same place no matter what you pick. Really, all your choices can affect is how people look at you, just like their general outlooks towards you. I don't know.
There is not necessarily. I mean, there are some moments where you do get to choose whether or not you intend to, whether like a character survives if you're going to continue to interact with them.
You haven't finished it, Johnny. You're wrong.
No, I don't mean survives overall.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. It feels like it invalidates your choice. I mean, it's thematically consistent with The Walking Dead because it's such a nihilistic series. You know, everyone is hurt, everyone dies.
But I mean,
if you're going in and you save a character and you're like, yes, that character is now safe because of me, and then they die in the next episode, you can feel like the game doesn't care about you.
Oh no, that's understandable. It still does award you some amount of result for your choice, whether or not that there's like an inevitable end, because you know, like it's absolutely ridiculous for us to assume that the game is going to have like one of several endings.
Well, yeah, they're not going to program whole different games for us. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I understand the difference between the reality of the business situation and the kind of experience that we could have someday in the future. Like, it's just a matter of, I understand why some people are complaining about it. I mean, maybe you haven't heard this. I just say some people are kind of disappointed with the lack of impact you seem to be able to have. I think the more important thing, and this is what Robert touched on in his editorial, is that it makes you feel invested in the world. You feel like you're interacting with the characters. It's an illusion. It's a sleight of hand in a sense, but it makes you feel like you're part of it. And it's overall, I think it's still an amazing game. I wouldn't let that dampen your experience, but I think it's worth pointing out.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, that's completely fair. I don't really play point-and-click adventures for replayability. Yeah, I mean,
that's something Sean was saying. He's like, I didn't even know if I was going to be able to go through it a second time. It's a draining experience. And I will say also that the point-and-click adventure stuff, it's pretty minimal. The puzzles are very, very easy if you've ever played old school.
Well, then, if you'd have to quantify the gameplay as something else, what would you say it would be?
I mean, it's almost David Cage-esque, like Heavy Rain or those kind of things, where it's story, QuickTime events, story, QuickTime events,
Master's Wrath,
yeah. And I have to say that I had a couple problems with QuickTime events. I'm not sure if it's just me, but since you have to hold the mouse with one hand and use the keyboard with the other, I can't click quite as fast as I can on the keyboard with my left hand. So I had to like use the mouse and then switch hands. It's hard to visualize maybe, but it's just a little thing with me. And I was like, oh, Jesus. Oh, God, I'm going to get eaten. Which hand do I need? And I got my nipples bit off quite a few times in one scene, is all I'm saying.
Ugh.
That sounds like I said that for comedic effect. I'm pretty sure I got my nipples bitten off. That's the way it looked to me.
You can see the horrified face I have on me right now.
But all in all, a great game. An amazing game. I don't know. It's hard to say if it's the objective best game of the year, but I think it's the most memorable, the most important, maybe, besides Journey. I think we'll look back on this year and we'll remember The Walking Dead, so that's the highest praise we can give it.
So is that it? So you just playing The Walking Dead?
Me? Is it my turn?
You. Well, I guess...
We segued into that, Austin.
Yeah.
Like, I finished episode 3, and you're like, is that all? You're terrible. Let me tell you about The Walking Dead.
Well, the thing about The Walking Dead is it's hard to talk about without getting into spoilers, so all we can kind of do is talk in generalities. So I didn't...
The dead walk!
Spoilers, people die.
Yeah. I also alluded to, I'm playing Virtue's Last Reward, which is the sequel to 999, which I gushed about last week. So if you follow me on Twitter, you probably heard me mention my PS Vita died, and that story ties
really? Oh, man.
ties into my story with Virtue's Last Reward. So I'm in South Florida now, and I live in North Florida semi-permanently for university. So there was like a 9-hour bus ride, and I loaded up. I downloaded Virtue's Last Reward for the Vita. I was like, this is it.
So it's a downloadable?
For Vita, it is. There is a physical version for the 3DS.
Okay. I thought it was just going to be like an import. I thought it was I didn't think it would be across the season, or yeah.
Access localized it.
Okay.
But here's the thing. This is my fatal mistake. I went with the Vita over the 3DS, and if you know anything, never ever do that. It died 10 minutes. It was full battery. It just bricked. I don't have any.
Oh, okay. It just straight up bricked itself. Oh, okay. I thought it was like, the battery's dead. I'm just waiting for it to recharge right now.
No, the Vita has a good battery life. It just stopped working. It just quit on puzzle. It had the PlayStation logo on the screen, and it just wouldn't turn on. It wouldn't turn off. It was just
that's
dead.
Bogus. It's too bad. Well, I've been really tempted to get a Vita now, solely for Persona 4 Golden, but I just can't bring myself to buy it.
It's an amazing piece of hardware when it works.
They usually are when it's like that.
And it has a couple of good games. Persona 4 the Golden, Gravity Rush, Virtue's Last Reward, but that's also on 3DS. It's so frustrating. First, the lack of support for it, and now I can't play the games I already do have.
So is there no way to replace the bricked one, or you just have to wait until you get back to...
Honestly, after it stopped working, I just threw it in my bag, and I haven't looked at it. Once the battery runs out, if I recharge it, it might work. It might have,
okay.
Set itself.
That's unconscionable!
Johnny's like, I'm back from my break. What happened?
Pee break.
No, it sounds like your handheld bricked. Is that right?
His Vita bricked.
Your Vita bricked.
Just completely, I didn't do anything. It wasn't like it was updating and I turned it off. I didn't drop it.
Oh, you're not supposed to do that.
Uh-oh.
I didn't.
You can't turn off shit when they're downloading something, or something bad's gonna happen.
I didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said that you did, rather than you said. Okay, so you didn't do anything like that.
I was listing the things I didn't do.
Oh, okay.
I didn't drop it. I didn't submerge it in water. I didn't turn it off while it was downloading. It was on, and I turned it off, and I turned it back on again, and it just froze.
You didn't throw it out of the window and went to go get it.
Did you beat a small child with it? Did you beat a fat child with it?
Not with my Vita. Obviously, with the PSP. That's what they're for.
It's true. those mammoth things.
So, I mean, all in all, I didn't get to play far enough into Virtue's Last Reward to talk about it, but it did give me a good story about how fucking pissed off I am at the Vita. I did play one other game before we sign off.
Keep going.
Castlevania Lords of Shadow.
Gooder.
Well, here's the story. I wasn't really planning on playing it. I've never been much of a Castlevania fan. I like Symphony of the Night and a couple of the other ones, but, it's just never really grabbed me. But with the sequel coming out, I might have to review it, so I picked this one up. From what I heard, it's pretty critically acclaimed, although old school Castlevania fans were kind of mad about it rebooting the franchise and ignoring all previous lore or whatever. So I don't really care about that, mostly because Castlevania isn't super original to begin with. Like, the antagonist is Dracula, you know what I'm saying? I can't really be mad about...
Spoilers!
That's not...
Jeez!
I'm just saying, when you take IP that's already established, I don't find it particularly, blasphemous for it to be rebooted. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the game itself is interesting. It's part God of War, part Shadows of the Colossus, part, I don't know. It feels like just an amalgamation of so many different things. And we talked about before, if you're going to steal from the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it totally does, and it makes it work.
It does. It works sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't. There's one part in particular where it just fell apart for me. There's a boss fight when it's doing the God of War stuff, and then it switches to the Shadow of the Colossus stuff. So you're climbing the guy, and then you have to do a QuickTime event.
Yeah.
I don't know, guys. I kind of lost faith in it at that point, because the great thing about Shadow of the Colossus is you feel like you're interacting with this giant monster, right? You're figuring it out. It's a puzzle, and it's like a living, breathing enemy. But when it makes it QuickTime events, it kind of makes it feel less immediate. It takes you out of it. I don't know. To me, the merger of those two gameplay styles felt incongruous in those instances, at least.
Well, I've always felt a little conflicted about QuickTime events in the sense that they always seem to occur when the most cinematic things are going on.
Yeah.
But you can never really truly pay attention to the scope, to the spectacle, because you're looking at the edges of the screen in case, like, a button or an arrow shows up.
That's why I actually liked God of War 3, because they actually put the QuickTime event buttons presses on the outer edges of the screen, and they put it in the places of the button in coordination with the buttons on the controller. And they actually had a little glow on it, so it would say, "Oh, there's a glow up top. I better press the triangle button."
Yeah,
and you can actually like pay attention to everything in front of you.
I will always say that God of War has always done QuickTime events the best. There's no complaints from me about the way that series implements them. They work exactly as intended. But I feel like when they're shoehorned into other franchises, they don't quite get the appeal, or they don't pull them off quite right. Like Resident Evil, I think, is the biggest offender, where things that don't need to be QuickTime events are for completely arbitrary reasons. It takes you out of it. It doesn't let you look at the scenery. Like there's that knife fight from I think, was it 4 or 5? It's just it's one of the worst instances in any games where
the knife fight I think was 4.
Yeah, that's like the worst part of a great game. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't finished Lords of Shadow. I might tell you if it comes together late for me. Right now, I'm conflicted. I like a lot of things about it. There's the combat system is interesting, the light and dark magic mechanic. There's some really cool character design. There's some gross monsters and stuff. The puzzles are interesting. I'm not sure how I feel about it overall. James, you've played it. Do you have any kind of insight for me there?
I really enjoyed it. I did get past the I really didn't like the Colossus bosses, but I'm glad that there was only a couple at the beginning. There's I think there's only 2, and then it goes on to the Lords of Shadow, where you have to fight them for the mask.
Yeah, those are much better fights.
Yes, those are much better fights, and eventually, oh wait, there's one more actually. Near the end of the game, but it's a lot different than the Colossus battles.
I feel kind of weird and hypocritical to say take that thing that resembles Shadow of the Colossus out of your game, because any other time that's the game you should be stealing from. But in this one, it doesn't feel like it fits with the rest of it.
Well, we have talked in the past about consistency of a game. Like I'm fairly certain at some point in time we talked about Deus Ex Human Revolution being like an absolutely brilliant game, except for the boss fights.
Which were contracted out to another company.
It's true, but the thing is that they would have been fine in any other game.
Yeah.
They just
broke it.
Didn't belong.
Yeah, they were out of place.
There's a very, like that. I think that's a very important part of game design. There has to be like, when you sit down and you start to play a game, like it'd be really fucking weird if Creative Assembly came out with like Total War Rome 2, and then it's like conquer this city. It's like, yes, move my legions into Carthage, and it's like, okay, pick up your guitar and like, it's rock band time.
And self to victory. Quick, use the base to take down the wall.
Exactly, and I mean, as ridiculous as a simile as that is, I think it stands to reason even in action games. Like to just jam a first-person shooter segment into a side-scrolling platformer is unnecessary and unwanted.
Except for in the cases where juxtaposition is thematically as consistent. Like I talked about before, El Shaddai, where it changes gameplay every 20 or 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That becomes the style to have these contrasting elements.
Difficult to pull off, but, not impossible.
Once you do it, if you do it right, it'll be pretty spectacular.
I'd be interested in hearing, because we have like a question for the commenters, I'd be interested in hearing what everyone else has to say about the direction Castlevania is going, because I kind of lost interest around the DS games, because first of all, their names are absolutely ludicrous. I have no idea how you tell those apart. But even then, just the way the reboot and now the 3DS and Lords of Shadow 2 that are coming out, some people are mad, some people are excited. I don't know. I need to kind of take the pulse of the community, how they feel about the direction.
Do you know that the new Castlevania is actually coming out on PC?
Yep.
Will that be a first?
I believe so, yeah.
I don't think Lords of Shadow is on Steam.
No,
it isn't. Yeah, well, I really, like, when it got to, How was it? Lord or Order of Ecclesia, I think it was.
How can you say that with a straight face? That is a stupid name. That's like a Mad Libs name.
Yes, and that the entire story around it, I was like, this is the dumbest Castlevania-based story I've ever heard, ever. And I've seen fanfics.
Yeah. It's weird when you have a game that combines, like, Medusa and the Grim Reaper, and then you're like, this part doesn't seem realistic to me.
Dracula, Blarg, magic, and Dracula DNA, or whatever, I don't care.
Yeah.
That's where I started disliking it, and that's pretty much when, the announcement for Lords of Shadow came a little bit after that.
Yeah, I think I might have been wise to reboot it.
It was definitely going down a pretty grim path if they were just going to make more DS games with characters that aren't even related to the Belmont family.
Yeah, pretty much. So I think that's the Christmas episode, guys.
Yep.
Seems like it.
Do you want to play us out with your Yule log?
We need the crackling. Yeah.
Storms are coming.
Winter is coming.
I only wish I could get. I had like a creaking rocking chair sound as well.
Oh, my chair doesn't squeak that hard.
Nah, neither does mine.
Wouldn't it be funny if Leon just joined the call?
I'm Leon.
He just shows up and then you just
Hey, I'm Leon. I'm gonna see what he's doing on Twitter.
Have we figured out what happened to Leon?
No, I'm going on the Nomad. And he's wandering the Oregon Trail.
He's settling a new part of the Midwest.
He's probably with his family like normal people on Christmas Eve.
I'm sorry, did you just accuse Leon of being normal?
My mistake.
Hey, that's right. This podcast is like 100% more Canadian now.
Yeah. How you like them odds, Austin?
I have nothing to say in defense of Florida, nor should anyone.
Next up, we're going to get Oda on the podcast when you're not around. It'll be like 300% Canadian.
And we'll talk all about poutine.
Because poutine's fucking awesome, man.
I don't even know what that is.
So awesome. That's a shame, Austin.
It's basically French fries with gravy, cheese curds.
Sounds pretty delicious.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And then you can, like, do other things to it, like throw bacon in there if you want.
Yeah.
Or, like, pulled pork.
Braised beef.
Yeah.
I've actually had poutine with butter chicken.
Why does poutine get a funny, fancy name? Isn't it just gravy fries?
No, there's cheese curds.
It's just cheesy gravy fries. You guys fancying everything up.
Well, no, I mean, the reason why it's called poutine is because it comes from Francophone Canada.
Yep. It's probably the only good export they've ever had.
Canada jokes. All right, I'll talk to you guys later.
Okay.
Have a merry, merry Christmas, friends.
All right.
Bye. Leon.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he just did.